And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Sports. And Rassie Erasmus has just named his team to face Georgia this weekend. What about that call in the number 8 jersey? One Visa gets a 4-match ban. Well, his brother will turn out in the number 8 jersey for what I can tell is the first time ever in his career, and it could be an absolute mastermind stroke from Rassie Erasmus. It's an uncapped front row for the Boks, and then very much a mixture of youth and experience throughout the rest of the side, and a very, very experienced bench. So despite the fact that it is against Georgia, Rassie Erasmus and his coaching staff definitely not taking any chances and are very much looking to build a bit of momentum. And I think probably try a few combinations as we start to sort of put together our final prep really ahead of the Rugby Championship. Before we get into it, please do smash a like on the video. Let me know what you think of the side and whether you think we've gone with the right sort of idea or not. Let's get stuck in, shall we? Right, front row, Bowen Venter, Marnus van der Merwe, Neethling Verscher, all on debut. I think we probably expected all three of them to be involved. Surprised that they're all together. Often we've sort of seen them, new players being blooded with more experience next to them, so it almost would have made more sense for like a Bowen Venter, Bongi Manambi, Neethling Verscher, for example, or having a Thomas du Toit starting. But not the case. So being sort of really thrown out to the wolves, really, against what's a pretty good Georgia pack. But at the end of the day, if you want to be in the front row, you want to be in that engine room for the Boks, you've got to show what you can do. And I think Marnus van der Merwe in particular is probably the one I'm the most excited to see on Saturday. He's a really talented player. I genuinely think he can push the likes of Bongi Manambi, Malcolm Marx, for places in the squad. So I think it's a very overdue debut. Then Ebenezer comes back into the side. He will partner Ruan Nokia. I think we all expected to see Kobus Visa start. We probably all expect to see him start next to Ruan Nokia. Not the case. So Eben comes back in. Siya Kolisi is back, and he does start his first game of the year in the Boks. And Stevie P will build up some more match fitness against Georgia. And then the big call. I mean, Kobus Visa in the number 8 jersey. No one would have called that. Absolutely no one would have called that. And I'm very interested to see how it goes. I mean, he plays as a big bruising lock. We'll have to wait and see if he's got the mobility, I think, probably the big sort of question mark to be able to work in the number 8 jersey. And very interesting that he hasn't really played there before. He's played on the flank before, but not really often. I think he's played once in the past season on the flank, and that was due to a bit of an injury crisis that the Bulls kind of had. So it's a big call. Spare a thought for Evan Roos, who I think would have been eyeing out this big opportunity to start. No Jasper Visa, Jean Augustus injured, Cameron Hanekom injured. You'd be sitting there thinking, I reckon I can get an opportunity here to really stake a claim. Well, instead, they rolled the dice and they're going to try Kobus Visa. Grant Williams will get another start next to Sasha Famigama-Zulu, comes into the side in the number 10 jersey. Kirtley Arendse returns. Edel van der Merwe keeps his jersey. And I think that we're going to see Kirtley Arendse, Edel van der Merwe, Ches and Colby be rotated quite a bit. I don't think there's actually a lot between them. Kirtley Arendse, Ches and Colby have got those jerseys nailed down. But I genuinely don't believe we lose quality when Edel van der Merwe plays. I think he could be as good as the other two. He just needs to get more opportunities, for example, and more game time. But I think that he is very much up there with the two of them. Then there's the new centre pairing. Damian Delende next to Kenan Moody. No Andre Esterhuizen. That might be a bit of a surprise for a couple of people. I definitely thought we were going to see Andre Esterhuizen at the very least on the bench. Not the case. So Damian Delende will run out next to Kenan Moody. Well, I believe is the first time, actually. I don't think Kenan Moody's ever played with Damian Delende inside him. So it'll be interesting to see how that sort of combination works. I played Fassi back into the starting lineup. That one was probably one of the more expected selections, when we sort of looked at how this might all play out. Then we look at the bench, and it's experienced. Very, very experienced. Bongi Manambi, Thomas du Toit, Vincent Koch. I mean, Thomas du Toit, the least experienced between those two players. But there's well over 200 caps. Or just about 200 caps, I think, between those three players. You then go on Arceus Neymar next to Kwagga Smith in a very orthodox 5-3 split. Or is it a 5-3 split? Well, it's a 5-3 split, but I mean, maybe we're going to see Damian Delende go onto the flank. Maybe he's also working on that sort of hybrid player type of thing. And then we've got a 5 de Klerk, Handré Pollard, and Damian Willemse. So lots of experience there. Surprised in a way to see Handré Pollard get a run. I thought they would look to try and give Manie Libbok a bit more time. Not surprised to see Damian Willemse at all. We really need to see what he can do. And not what he can do, but give him more opportunities back in the box jersey and get him playing back to his best. Because when he's at his best, he's arguably the best fullback in World Rugby. I truly, truly believe that. So if we look at some of the stats, for example, Eben Etzebeth will extend his record as the most capped box to 133 tests. Curtly Orense requires 5 points to score 100 tests for the box. Let's look at the total test cap, shall we? 484 in the starting lineup. It's not bad, not bad. Not a lot, not massive amount, because you've got newbies, obviously a brand new front row. Kobus Wiese is playing only a second game. Ronald Keir's not played a lot of rugby. Edel van der Merwe is playing in just his third game. There's 165 caps in the back line, 319 amongst the forwards. There's 437 on the bench. So that just sort of shows you how, when you look at the average caps in the back line, it's just 24. Amongst the forwards, it's 40. On the bench, it's 55. So if anything is going to go wrong, for example, if Georgia do maybe shock us a little bit, we're going to be able to cope with it quite easily, I think. And I think that, I think that we're going to be quite okay, in all honesty, because I think that we've got all the experience we could possibly want in the side that we've named. So, what do you think? I think for me, slightly disappointed with the bench. I think we could have seen a bit more of Evan Roos. I think it would have been a nice opportunity to give Asnat and Tlabakanya another go. I think that we could have, I would like to see Moy Liebok given another go. Other players who I think will feel unlucky not to get another opportunity is, again, Andre Esterhuizen. I think he would have liked to have probably played a bit more. I think Vincent Tuka could have been an opportunity. I think I could have had him on the bench ahead of a Kwaka Smith, for example. No Lord Diago, no Franco Mostert, so they haven't now played in a while. But this is the big problem with having such a big squad, that we've got to try and find ways of getting everybody game time, whilst making sure that we're sort of testing combinations, winning games, and the like. So it's a very fine line, and it's a difficult one to really get right, I think. And I think that's kind of the problem that we're struggling with at the moment, is finding those opportunities consistently to give players chances. This team over here has got everything it needs to take on most test sides, bar the front row, I think. If you would throw in the replacement front row into the starting front row, this team would look very, very comfortable, I think, against an All Blacks in Australia. You'd probably change a Kane and Moody and Edel van der Merwe. After that, I don't think there's a lot you would necessarily change in the pack. Obviously, even at this stage, we've got an eighth man crisis, so maybe Kobus Wiese is genuinely one of our best options at number 8 at the moment. So some big calls, some interesting calls, I think interesting combinations. And I'm very keen to sort of see how it all goes. I just want to make sure I sort out something quickly with the press conference, and then I'll be with you guys in a second. But in the meantime, I want to get your comments in the comments below. And what are we thinking, people? What have we got to say about the team itself? Because I think that it's quite a strange team in many ways, but in other ways it makes a lot of sense. Just need to quickly sort something out very quickly, and then I'm with you guys for the rest of it properly. Otherwise, you're not going to get a press conference from Rassie Erasmus. Right, I think that's all sorted here. And we are good to go. Right, people, what are you guys all saying? What are you all saying? I'm giving my whole breakdown. I like doing a whole breakdown. I like trying to sort of give my sort of thoughts. And now we're going to ask what you guys think and where you guys are with this side. And some interesting decisions being made. And I'm interested to sort of see if we're happy with them, or we're maybe not as happy as maybe we'd like. For me, the big one also Jasper Wiese. And it's a bold call. It's a very bold call. I mean, he's basically playing for the first time ever in the number 8 jersey for the Springboks. Obviously, it's a Wiese. So, how badly can it go? Because he's a very big bruising player. But I think there will be question marks about him. What it does do is, I'll tell you what, it completely gives us so many line options. I mean, in terms of your line options, you've got 4 proper jumpers. So you've got Peter Steph Toy, who's a proper jumper. You've got a Kobus Wiese in the number 8 jersey. So you've got those 2 options before you even look at your locks. So it's very, very interesting to see how they've gone with that sort of that setup. But you never know if it's going to work or not until you try. I guess that's probably the main thing. And I personally think that it's worth the experiment and worth having a look at him. He looked pretty good over the weekend. I've been calling for him to start, so I don't think it's a bad idea. But I do feel very much for I do feel for Evan Roos. I think that this would have been the opportunity for him to put his hand up, and I think that that's a big. I wouldn't say an opportunity missed, but I think it just sort of shows you how he's still not quite on with the box coaching staff. You know, I think that he's been desperately trying to prove himself, and he looked a lot better for me on Saturday. And I thought maybe that was going to be the moment that he gets his chance. And it's not to be. And I think that's going to be quite a tough one for him to take, because he's been in and around the box setup. He's been told he has to go work on certain things. He's now come back into the box setup, and he's been given, well, Visa's been given a chance ahead of him, which is going to be a very difficult thing for him to take. But what are we saying here, people? So Nick earlier was saying, I love that centre pairing, very exciting. Carl says, I like the new front row with strength behind as well as super strong backline and bench. Nick saying he loves the centre pairing. Oh, look, the centre pairing I think is probably one of the stronger parts and quite an exciting part, because first of all, it shows you how they very much look at Kane Moody as a genuine option. You know, it wasn't just a once-off every now and again he gets to play. He's playing consistently now, and he's playing with both Andre Esterhuizen and Damien Delindi. So, you know, you're not going to panic if Delindi gets injured. You're going to back Kane Moody in that outside centre position. So that's a really good aspect of it as well. And I think that that's quite exciting and good for Kane Moody, because I think at the moment Kane Moody sometimes slips through the cracks a little bit. He is so young. He's had such a good career, and we've got so many options that sometimes I think it's easy to basically say, oh yeah, but he's young. He'll kind of get his chances, and he'll be around, and you know he'll get us. You know, he'll be there all the time. He's got such a strong future ahead of him, but he actually hasn't played that much post the World Cup, that I think we often forgot about him. And I think Edel van der Merwe came in and sort of showed, especially on the wing, how excited he can be. And Kane Moody's transition to centre is maybe a bit more what we need to be focusing on here. And that for me is in itself is quite an interesting talking point, and we'll talk about it a little bit more. Alfred Sharpshooter says, pretty much expected this team outside of Visa at 8. Zach van Nooren saying, how does he not give Ethan Hooker another chance? Chris says, Georgia lost to the Cheetahs. I predict they lose by at least 60 points. And I think it's a terrible prediction over there. What are you guys' predictions, actually, looking based on this team? How many points does this team win by? Just quickly sorting this upload up, and there we go. Got so many things happening at the same time, but you know, unfortunately, you guys always bear with me. We've got so much different coverage. Want to make sure you guys have got a press. You be quiet. Want to make sure we've got press conference and stuff for you. So Evan says, good team, great to see a 5-3 split. Happy to see the back starting on the bench. Josh asking the big question, saying why not Russ? Matthew reckons you would like to have seen Ethan Hooker involved. TP Nunes said, I called it, Damon Delindi and Moody at centre. Bender says, Kouas Visa at 8 reminds me of Kitch move with Mark Andrews in the 1995 World Cup. It was a masterstroke. Well, maybe this is it. You know, we talked about, you know, who's going to take the opportunity, who's going to really throw down that position. Maybe Kouas Visa has been the answer all this time. And maybe we've actually been looking at the wrong Visa. I don't think so. I mean, yes, Visa's been pretty good. But maybe this is the big bold call we've been waiting for. And maybe Kouas Visa has an absolute stellar game on Saturday and says, this number 8 jersey is mine. And whoever's coming to the Bulls is going, well, now what? You know, I'm now going to play this guy at 8. Which he doesn't. But Matthew Benasse is saying Rassie definitely doesn't rate Evan. Mike saying he's glad Russ is not there. Some people saying that, obviously a big absentee, that one. Didi says, only Rassie will think of Kouas Visa as an 8, and I think it's a great decision. Interesting to see how he goes. Tyreek, one of our Forever Sports members, says, honestly was hoping to see Ethan Hooker in the squad. Mark said, what about Hornet fullback? We ever going to see him? Well, he's not currently in the squad. I agree. I like to see him, and I think that he is a big miss in the side. But unfortunately, not in the squad. I don't think we're going to see much of Leroux, to be honest. And I think that, for me, I'd like to see a Kwan Hong get more involved and get the call up, because we're not going to see much more of Villaroo. We know he's not going to play much longer. I don't think he's going to play in the next World Cup. And in that case, let's look at options. Klein Horn is a genuinely good option, and I think we should be giving him game time. Carl says, I get why Pollard's on the bench because he hasn't played that much for Springbok so far this year. Money got a full 80 minutes last week, and Pollard's only had like 50. Yeah, but I mean, who are you going to play in Australia? Who are you going to play against Australia? Because I think that, Pollard's probably played more rugby over the past season, given the fact he played all that rugby for Leicester Tigers. Molly Liebach had some injury issues, so he hasn't played as much. I would have liked to have seen Molly Liebach, especially with that centre pairing. I would have liked to see what Molly Liebach can do with Damien Delinde outside him. Joan van Niekerk says, Rassie likes a Dwayne Vermeulen kind of 8, still looking. Well, I don't think Cobus Wiese is really a Dwayne Vermeulen-esque type of 8. Dwayne Vermeulen was so good under the high ball, so good at the breakdown, defensively very solid. I think Cobus Wiese is going to be... I actually don't really know what we're going to see, but I think we're going to see more of his brother, I suppose, in him. Big ball carrier, bruising ball carrier. He will be a line option from that perspective. Dwayne Vermeulen was very good at the lineouts, so, from that point of view, we will see something different. But it's going to be interesting to sort of see how he kind of plays the game. Wolfish was saying, 4-week ban for Jasper is insane, honestly, for touching heads. To be fair, he doesn't have a particularly good record, so that's probably counting against him at the moment. JGS says, if Georgia were to shock the Box at all, then we have a way bigger problem than we could have imagined. Mikhail Lamas says, I think the next time we see Ethan Hooker will be versus Argentina or way later in November versus Wales or Italy. I don't think he'll even travel in that end-of-year tour. We generally take a much smaller squad to the end-of-year tour. I don't think he'll travel. I think we might see him against Argentina and Durban at a push. And to be perfectly honest, Evan H says, I feel like Rassie wants these players to prove they are still hungry ahead of Rugby Championship. Poor Georgia. Another one of our members, Springbok fan 111, saying Sasha needs to have more game time, so Pollard should go to number 12 if or when he comes on. Spun 6 says, let's go Bowen. Very interesting to see the front row. Jaden says, would have loved to see Vincent Tuka. Mark Cerny says, I'm disappointed that Rus and Hooker have been left out. Bradley was saying Pollard will come on at 12. And Sianda, as we're starting to... I thought we were catching up on our comments, but there's so many coming through, so I'll just try and pick out a few. Spansbeck says, Rus did look better, but needed to be more consistent and stop getting the ball ripped by backs. And the big thing they're talking about... Well, this is what Rassie Erasmus was saying in the press conference, by the way, as it comes, saying Kubus is a nice option for lineouts that they want to try as they know what they get with Rus. I think that's trying to come across saying we don't need to worry about Rus because we know what he offers. There's a lot of players in this team that you know what you get with. I think Evan Rus. I think this is a setback for Evan Rus. I think this is a genuine setback. Look, maybe it's not. Maybe he starts against Australia. Maybe we're completely off the mark. Maybe they're sitting there saying Jasper Wiese has been ruled out. Next game's against Australia. We only have one real sort of starting 8 and an Evan Rus. Quacker Smith coming off the bench. Maybe we need to look at Cobus Wiese. But chances are Evan Rus will start against Australia. Maybe that is the case. But I look at this and I think that it's a big setback for Evan Rus. I genuinely do. Because I think that if they were really back him, I think they would sit there saying, well, you've got to get him a game against Georgia. You've got to get him ready for Australia. Gershon was saying, why is Ethan Hooker, Evan Rus left out when they are supposed to prove themselves? It's Georgia we're playing against. Jean Stewart saying, well, take out Kwaka and put in JLDP. He deserves 2 or 3 games. Other than that, very happy Stevie. And most of the comments about Evan Rus. Tyreek was saying, definitely a squad still good enough to put 50 on Georgia. Oh, well, yeah, crisis. There's 55 average caps on the bench. That should put 55 points on many a tier 2 side. Wolfish Moon says, Rus time might be counted at the Box. Crazy moving Cobus Wiese to 8 when Evan Rus is a number 8. Rugby DNA records the players don't like Evan. I'd be very surprised. Very nice guy. Doesn't seem to be somebody who doesn't fit in with a lot of people. And I'm injured. Yes, he is injured. Francois saying Georgia's renowned for their strong scrum. Will be interesting to see how our front row goes. Well, let's talk about that because I think that for me is quite an interesting part of it. I think that Georgia, the one part that we might get tested at against Georgia is the front row, and it's a big test for this front row to be in their first ever game, all 3 of them, to go up against a pretty good pack. The Georgian front row is arguably better than Italy, I think, on the day, especially the Italian pack that was maybe sent down here. Apart from that, I think we should probably be quite comfortable. But the scrums will hopefully be a part which will be a test. And I'm really hoping that our brand new front row stands firm in that test and really goes well. Anton says, can anyone do an update video on Hanekom and Augustus? I don't see the issue on Kubas because maybe the box testing, but put more number 8 options now. They will bother to be out for 4 games. Speaking about Jasper Wiese. Yeah, at this stage, I mean, Haman Hanekom and is set to be out for the season. We haven't really heard much about when Cameron Hanekom, John Augustus will be out. We actually don't even really know what John Augustus' injury is. So it's an interesting situation to be in. We've got so many injuries at 8. I personally would have loved to see a Franco Horn get a chance, get called up. I mean, I think at the moment they're not really backing Evan Roos too much. So why not give somebody like a Franco Horn a go and let him cook. Let him cook. But let him have a go, because we've now got a bit of a crisis at 8. I'm almost more surprised we actually didn't give Sia a chance at 8. You could go with a Marco van Staden at 6. You could go with a PSF the Toy at 7, and maybe have Sia Khaleesi go at 8. So for me, it worked at the Sharks. I thought he played pretty well when he played at 8 for the Sharks. So I'm almost surprised that, and they spoke about the fact that they see him more as a 6, but he is an option. This could have been if there's ever a game to give him a go, it was this one. So again, I'm a bit surprised about that, and we'll have to wait and see. But Patejo says, I know you're not allowed to question Rassie, but Roos is a mistake, and the overall age of the squad needs to be addressed. You're definitely allowed to question Rassie, whether your questioning is right or wrong or whatever. But at the end of the day, as fans, that's what makes life interesting. We get to ask the big questions. We get to ask maybe the unpopular questions as well. So, and I mean, to be fair, Rassie Erasmus he's admitted he's made mistakes in the past. He said that he should have backed Willie back when he was at the Stormers. So he's not like he's perfect, and he's very happy to admit when he's wrong. It's just interesting that they just never really seem to rate Evan Roos. He's always the last member to make a squad, for example. He's never really seemed to be given the chances other players are given to try and prove himself. And I think that does show to a certain degree that they don't rate him particularly highly. So I do think it's a bit of a setback for Evan Roos, and I do think that he needs to try and prove himself. I don't know how, but I think that's probably the problem. I mean, he's had good URC seasons. He's had time in the Bok camp. It's just very weird they don't seem to give him the opportunity. Yeah, interesting. Very, very interesting. And we're going to sort of wrap this up relatively soon. So get your comments in over here. But Evan says, Samora says, surely it's time to call John Augustus up to the squad. He's injured. That's the problem. As far as we understand, he's injured. I think if he was fit, I think he'd be drafted back into the squad. But I don't think that is the case at the moment. Francois says, I don't think that Rassie would want to move Sia to 8 against Oz or New Zealand, so he's definitely looking for another option. Brian Mitchell says, trying to create more Swiss Army knives with Wiese. Rugged Man says he's had ample opportunities, never did himself any favors. I see him talking about Evan Roos there. So yeah, that's a big one. That's probably the biggest call. If we look at some other big call, I mean, I don't think it's too much actually to really. Grant Williams with Sasha, that's going to be an exciting combination. Probably our number 1 sort of 9 and 10 combo at the moment, I would say. After that, I think Morne van den Berg probably currently sitting the number 2 scrum half option. Marnie and Honje, I think is very little between the two at the moment. I think it'll be very condition orientated and opposition orientated in terms of who we'd actually back between Marnie Liebach and Honje Pollard. Robert says, this is the first time I've been waiting to see this is the team I've been waiting to see for 3 weeks. Predictions for the first Lions test. I'm hoping that we're going to see the Lions shock a few people. I really hope that they pitch up and and give them a good game, because we don't want to see a walkover from the Lions. And I do think that we saw Australia getting a lot better, and I'm really hoping that they pitch up and they give the Lions a good first test. But at the end of the day, I think should be relatively straightforward. Tristan says, size in the pack versus Georgia. Rassie wants to bully the box to turn up. Jean-Andre Northnachel says, Ed will going to cause some problems for Georgia. Hope he stays healthy and injury-free for Tier 1 oppositions. Think 20 Field 60 says, have we all forgotten how good Luard is? He needs more time with the team. I mean, Luard Diaga's a 60-70 cap buck. I get what you're saying, but I'm just saying I think he'll be okay. He hasn't looked like he's been away when he's played, has he? So in terms of, interesting by the way, they said that he would have loved to have given Renzo and Quine Horn a run for this game, but after the first Italy game, they had to change plans. They're going to announce a squad for Australia on Tuesday, apparently, and then a different one's going to be announced for New Zealand. So it'll just be a two-game squad and then a different squad. Not necessarily a different squad in terms of completely different players, but they'll update the squad before they go to New Zealand. Devin Cash saying, wish we get to see more of Ethan Hooker. What a player. I'm Soviet Russia says, your Saffers are spoiled for talent at the moment. Goggin Shear says, Ethan Hooker is not forgotten. I do think the competition is crazy. Werner says, nice warm-up game for the Baby Box final. Well, yeah, I mean, what a dream. What a dream. The fact that we're going to be able to, watch this game and then take a quick bri break and then get going with the Junior Block game at 8:30 on Saturday evening. It's going to be so much fun. Really looking forward to that one, and I hope you guys come and all join us for it. We're going to wrap up there, people. Thank you very much for joining me, and we will be dissecting this team a bit more tomorrow on the live show, and we will have the Rassie Erasmus press conference up within a few. In fact, give me a few seconds and actually I'll redirect you directly to it. So then my question, I haven't even done a poll. So there we go. Let's do a poll. Do you like the team? Simple yes or no. And yeah, that sounds all right. Because last week, a lot of people didn't like the team. And I was quite surprised at how few people did like the team last week, given the fact that it was always going to be, for me, a very rotated side. We kind of knew it. For me, it was very exciting with all the different combinations. And yet, quite a few people didn't like that team compared to, obviously, the week before, where we named a very strong team. So even now, I always think that in the 90%, then that's kind of a good place to be in. And at the moment, we're seeing the 80s. So go and let me know what you do and what you don't like about the team, and what you would change. And that's also the big thing. It's one thing saying you don't like the team, but what would you change about the team? Because it's and well, name your changes. So say for example you don't like I don't know. Kubas Visa at 8. Who would you put at 8, for example? That's the kind of comment I'd like to see. I'd like to see if you're gonna say you don't like the team, what changes would you make, and what are those changes going to look like, and who would you change them for? Because I think if I'm looking at this team, I would like to potentially change the front rows, and I think that we could have gone with Asnat and Tlabakanya again and given him another opportunity to sort of keep building his experience. I think that he's a genuine option for the World Cup. I think they're looking at your Nietli Bashirs as well. So that part's fine. But I don't think we necessarily needed to see a Vincent Koch. I'm very in between with Vincent Koch. He's never really let us down. He's such a good player. But you do start to feel that maybe his time's come. Maybe it's time to look at other options. Maybe it's time for him to kind of be moved on, given the fact that we've got, young players. And Vincent Koch's not going to make the next World Cup, which he could. I don't think he will. My gut says he doesn't. With the injuries to Frans Maherbe, with the injuries to Trevor Nukana, it does kind of show you that these players are getting on in years, and if they're not going to be able to stay fit, you've got to look at other options. And I think, again, if you're looking at Asante and Tlabakanye as a proper option, then give him the time. Yeah, you gave him his test cap. He played against Barbarians, looked pretty good. Give him a game against Georgia, and I wonder if, again, if that first game hadn't gone so badly, whether we would have seen it. And I'd be very interested to see how much we are having to adapt due to that really poor performance in the first game against Italy, and whether that's really forced us to have to rethink afterwards. And I'm a bit surprised, really, that we've been so reactionary to what was not a good game. But it wasn't. I mean, I don't think it was needing to panic, but it does seem like we've changed our entire sort of plan for the season based on that one game. And yeah, so we're going to wrap up there, people. And not this time, I promise you, we are going to wrap up. I'm going to send you guys all to the Rassie Erasmus forums. So you can actually go and get more feedback. Instead of me trying to tell you what I think is the thinking behind all of this, we can actually go and listen to Rassie Erasmus himself. And he's got all the answers that I've been sort of trying to attempt to think of. Some very interesting stuff coming from that. We're actually going to do a bit of a video later about what some of the decisions that he's made is, and what some of the more in-depth sort of options are, because at the moment we can only show you guys the first 10 minutes of press conferences, and a lot of stuff happens after that. It's a full press conference, so we'll do a bit of an update actually on what goes on in the second part of the press conference. So people, thank you very much for joining me. It's been fun, and I'm going to send you over to Mr. Dr. Erasmus. You can go and check out that video, and then we'll be live once again tomorrow to chat about this, and we'll have a video up a little bit later dissecting this team and kind of giving a bit more insight as to what Rassie Erasmus himself is thinking. Please do smash like on the way out. Do